All right. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is another exciting episode of Tech Tuesdays of South Florida Tech Hub and powered by Owwll. Today we have several exciting guests here. We have expert of the day Randee from Fort Lauderdale Alliance. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
And we have Ashton again here from South Florida Tech Hub. So before we get into personal introductions by Randee, Ashton, welcome back to the show. Since this is a South Florida Tech Hub, kind of like joint venture, tell us a little bit about past events and what we have coming up.
Uh, Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're really excited. This is a great busy time of the year. And so we just had our first golf event. We partnered with Fort Lauderdale United, which is the new soccer team here in South Florida, the women's team.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really great. We are celebrating our 30th year of Tech Hub, which is really
Awesome.
wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. And then we have a lot of really exciting events coming up. So from a talent perspective, we have Tech Talent Fest, and that one is going to be in Boca this time. Because we're regional, we do it all throughout. And so this one is going to be held at Palm Beach State College. And the best way to think of Tech Talent Fest is essentially a career fair on steroids, because you have the traditional aspect where you can meet with companies and, have potential internships and jobs that come from it. And then also too, we do a lot of programming. We have a keynote. There are workshops and panels. It's a really phenomenal event. So that is coming up on April 11th. And there's a registration page and all that you can find on our website. And then also too, after that, we have our annual event, SoFlo DevCon, and this is the 21st annual year of doing it. So we have over 1,000 people. This one's held at NSU. That one will be May 17th and is really great. It's for software developers and kind of the same concept, expert panelists and things like that. It's a whole day affair. Both of these talent events are free. So I think that's something that's really important about Tech Hub. And for those that don't know what South Florida Tech Hub is, we represent we're the tech association that represents Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, and even up into the Treasure Coast. So our whole mission is to continue to build the tech ecosystem in a wide variety of ways. So we also have two on our calendar. March 14th, we're having a Legislative 101 virtual lunch and learn. That's also free. And our expert guest is Jamie Grant. He was the CTO of Florida, because the state legislature will be in session. So it's great to learn about those initiatives. And of course, mark your calendar. We have our biggest conference of the year, our biggest signature event, December 4th, is Tech Hub Pulse. So it's a huge conference at the Broward County Convention Center, and it has local speakers and also speakers around the world. So
Ashton, thanks so much. And I forgot to ask you to introduce yourself for some of the new people tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Ashton Adler. I'm the Director of Talent Engagement for South Florida Tech Hub. So I have the pleasure of working really closely with Randee, our expert, who you'll hear about in just a minute. And so I live in Broward County, and I love to be a part of this ecosystem and community.
Thank you so much. Randee, also welcome to the show. Fort Lauderdale Alliance, speaking about all the talent and a lot of technology companies in South Florida. Want to introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background with tech, how you get involved with South Florida Tech Hub, and also your state of the tech report. So we're looking to get an update on the whole technology in South Florida.
All right, well, thank you for having me this morning. And Ashton, it's really cool to be here. Kind of unusual because it's we have weekly talks all the time. So now it's like we get to share our talks with everybody else. I work at the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance. This is my third year. And the Alliance, it is the Economic Development Office of Broward County. And that means we have a public and private partnerships. Part of our funding comes from Broward, others come from our members. But unlike other organizations, we don't just support our members, we support everybody that's in the county. And the purpose that we're looking at at our organization is to really bring in our businesses, to relocate headquarters. And once they're down here, they really find that it's not just a place to work and vacation, but it's to grow their businesses as well. And that's where kind of like the talent piece comes in. When somebody calls and asks or are interested about moving into this county, there has to be some sense of security that there's, say talent, that there's workers that are available. And if you're asking like, how did I get involved? I think talent pipelines have always been part of on my mind. I think ever since I was in elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
because you ever have the students who always say, why am I here? Why am I in school? And if you'll hear the answers of like, you'll need this knowledge later. I was really trying to find relevance, and why am I attending? When I'm sitting in geometry class and I'm asking, why am I learning this? It's not just because I was frustrated, and I didn't understand it. But no one was there to tell me, like we can tell students now, if you have aspirations or you love working in water, you like working in your hands, you want to work at Frank and Jimmy's and actually pound out the next generation of propellers, we got to understand geometry and physics as well. So there was no workforce connection when I was growing up in school. And I was one of those students, even in elementary, middle, high school, was always looking to get away from school.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I didn't like it, because I couldn't find the meaning behind it. The funny thing is, I ended up being a teacher for 30 years at Broward County Public Schools.
Okay.
And that was because I actually met somebody who showed me that learning could be fun and relevant. And the moment I met this gentleman, his name was Steve Elliott, and he worked at Broward College at the time. From that moment, it takes just one. That's when I had that experience where it could be one person at one moment, one conversation that can change the course of what you want to do. And after meeting him and realizing this is kind of interesting and fun, and we can actually teach and bring relevance to students, like, I want to do this. I mean, I can go to work and actually learn
make a
and
difference.
Difference.
yeah,
Exactly.
like this is incredible.
Nice.
Yeah, so in my 30 years of working for Broward County Public Schools, and it was a great experience. I got to teach elementary school, middle school, high school, adjunct with Broward College and FIU. And it was during my let's just say the last third of my career, the last 10 years, really got an understanding when I was working in middle and high school that the needs of the students, prepare them for entry-level careers, and what was being taught in the classroom, they weren't matching. My concern was these high school students that they would have experiences in the classroom where what they were learning, the relevance was there, and they knew that there was a job for them once they left. And I'll say this, publicly and openly for everyone to hear, the direction I was receiving wasn't going to put them on a path that would make sense. As a result, I ran into a good friend who said, you need to really meet this lady. She was the Oracle software engineer, Percidi Foster. And we met around 2016, or it seems like that. And we had lunch and we realized we both shared the same concern and also a shared vision of what we wanted to do. And we started a nonprofit, Regenerate Tech.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose of this nonprofit was to provide skills for underrepresented students to prepare them for a competitive edge when they enter. But what the difference was, the skills that they were learning was being driven and dictated by Oracle, by American Express, by Citrix. These are the volunteers that we worked with and said, this is what students need to know and be able to do. And they were actually being taught by industry professionals. Because believe it or not, as a school teacher, I didn't have any street credibility. I wasn't a software programmer. I have the only course that I took, I don't think I ever shared this with you, the only course I took was in 1982 at Nova High School as a freshman. Marvin Henshaw was my teacher, and we sat and learned basic programming.
Mm-hmm.
That's great for that time when you think about it. Not a lot of people.
What
were
language?
doing-
Pascal or
Basic,
basic?
10 rem.
Yeah.
What are we doing? So I didn't have any knowledge skills, but I connected with a lot of folks who really felt what the industry of technology was like, almost like it was a trade,
Mm-hmm.
and they really wanted to pay it forward and pass it down.
Mhm.
And I think that's where I want to lead to. That's where I think I finally
Mhm.
connected with South Florida Tech Hub.
Got it. Got it. Well, you definitely have like, your finger on the pulse here in South Florida, specifically in Fort Lauderdale. Any companies that are coming into this location, whether it's from, the West Coast, from up north, what's the best way for them to really kind of like lay out the ground, like see what potential is here for technology, relocation, or maybe opening up like a satellite office? Sounds like you would be a great resource to connect with, and then you can help them, relocating maybe the people, the technology. Like, what's the best way to get the process going with your help?
I think what starts the interest is when folks when they start looking at the Tech Gateway map found at techgateway.org. In 2017, that map didn't look like what it looks like now. We have around 170 companies on the map.
I was going to mention, I looked at it a couple of years ago. It was, like green pasture. Now it looks like a metropolis. There's a lot of companies and a lot of more logos on the map for sure. So the last couple of years was transformative.
Absolutely, and there's more. We just can't put them on there. And it's it kind of builds that security that if a company is moving in here, this is a place that's thriving. And there's success in actually relocating here and expanding. On the talent side, our high school students and our college students and our students from our technical colleges look at this as a place where not only can I start my job here, but I can have history. When you go onto the map and there's each logo is a pop-up, it'll give you information about the company. It will give you a link to their homepage. If they have a career page, it's there, and also contact information. So when I have a student in high school that can start at Wheelhouse IT and maybe work there a few years and maybe reach a ceiling, or maybe it's one that came down from Georgia Tech. If they decide to pivot, there's a way to move longitudinally to many locations. So their career ladders, we look at it as having a career ladder. If it's not going to be within one particular company, it'll definitely be within Tech Gateway.
Right. And to that point as well, I think what the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance and Tech Gateway does so well is that a lot of times there's a myth and misconception with South Florida that we're palm trees and the beach and that's it. But they don't understand the thriving community that's down here, that there is talent, that there are other companies. I think when you look at the Tech Gateway map, it's undeniable that we are flourishing down here. So it's a great way to change those misconceptions and encourage people to relocate here and let people know that you do have the ability to get another job and to advance your career. In most cases today, it's not like in the past where you started a company and you retire at that same company, and it's just not the culture now. So being able to see, wow, I can go from Citrix to Microsoft, or that you learn City Furniture is a tech company that happens to sell furniture. So I think being able to do that and now having the interactive component online is just phenomenal. So, I think you guys nailed it along those lines.
And it's you're touching on a very important area, is that our talent, you think about students in college, talent looks at some of these the logos, and they just know them as consumers. Who know that Toshiba, is not just a hardware company, but they're actually involved in software development, and they have offices down here. And if you want to get a job in Toshiba, you don't have to work sales. You're working computer, the IT world, and working in cyber. And so the map, the pop-ups, really get an idea what's under the hood, and to maybe shift from looking at talent, looking at it as a consumer lens, but start looking as part of being the producer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great. The map is filling up, and so what are some of your marketing initiatives to really promote the map or promote this Tech Gateway? Like, how do you get the word out?
Strategically, one small bite at a time, and we look at to get the brand of Tech Gateway. I still think of pipelines. It first started off of putting it in maps in just our high school classrooms. Once again, picture the student who's sitting there. It's like, why am I learning this? And we tell the students, like, this is your vision board. This is do your homework, circle where you want to go. And then it turns into, well, we're offering this in middle school. So we have brands, your connections with schools. It's maps for the first time are in
Mhm.
Miami-Dade schools, Broward schools, and Palm Beach schools, and middle and high school. We've also have strong outreach to our higher ed, not just locally, from FIU in Miami, all the way, to University of Florida. In the state, we've gone outside of the state to Georgia Tech, Morehouse. Not only
Rochester, all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
even when going to Rochester, and we can fill every job. Every graduate from our local universities can land a job here in Tech Gateway, and there's still room for more. So this is why we're even going beyond our state and we're looking nationally. And it's kind of nice. We're at the point where we're getting phone calls saying, "Can we actually work with the Alliance and Tech Gateway because we have talent that wants to come back?"
Mhm.
And that's what's kind of interesting. I always believe if you build something great, you look for people, attract, and all of a sudden you don't have to look to join, they'll ask. And we're at that point now where um, the small steps on talking about what's the value of being on the map. It's not just the brand, but we're also looking at solutions of actually connecting talent to our companies with our partnership and a pilot program with Abe. So we're looking at talent solutions as well.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
can you talk about Abe a little bit for viewers that don't know what Abe is?
Sure. Abe's kind of interesting. First of all, it's not an acronym. It is a company started off by Beth Ellison, and Abe really is a reference to Abraham Lincoln. And his
I
focus
did not know
for,
that.
yeah, it was designed focus, for the people, by the people, and the focus is really the people and not the companies. But companies are people too. The best way I can describe it, because when I go to career fairs, and the first thing I tell them, they hold me their sheet of paper is, "Can I have your resume?" I'm like, "No, I don't need it." Because they kind of laugh that we're trying to actually share information on paper. But as HR companies currently use a model, the myth is model company will get 5,000 resumes and a HR machine will whittle it down to a workable number, an operational number where a person can actually vet them and go through them. And it's looking at keywords Ashton, you can do the right job, based on this resume. Well, what we found is just doing the right job doesn't mean you're going to be the best employee. And that's what kind of Beth brought to the table. So when talent creates their profiles in Ape, or the companies create their profiles in Ape, they actually go through a survey of questionnaire about what they expect in employees, or the talent expects in the employers. So there's pretty value to that life work balance. And what that means is, in addition to, like, do I want to work remote or hybrid, it's actually beyond that. It's if you prefer to work by yourself and the company actually has a culture of working in teams, you might have the knowledge and skills to do the job. You might be able to be the best person for that project and actually get the project completed under time and under budget. But you don't work well at all with your coworkers, and it's actually causing friction.
Mhm.
So during that 90 days probationary period, you're going to get called in and might be able to say is, Ashton, it's wonderful, but it's not making a good fit. And here it's like, oh, well, there's no, Ashton doesn't have communication skills. She doesn't have problem solving skills. Like, no, that's not it. But that's her personality. That's how she works. How she works best. So Abe is a way to mitigate that risk, that we're not just looking, best program isn't looking for just the best job. It's the best employee fit. So you'll actually get a data that talks, that will say why,
Mhm.
based on your questionnaire, why Ashton is not going to do the best job, but she'll probably be around for a few years.
Mhm.
So this new report, State of the Tech, you publish it every year. Can you give us like a quick summary of this year? Like what's new this year that hasn't been before?
Yeah, the State of Tech report. This is our fourth issue. We just an annual update. It's kind of just what's, if I had to like skim off the top what's going on, and this year's issue, which is available at techgateway.org, it's really talking about the startups who've survived, who are outside of survival. We talk about the stages of infants. You have a startup and maybe they're in the crawling stage. The companies that we focused on this issue, they're toddlers. They're walking. They're outside of danger. They're a success. They have a degree of success. They've established some roots here in the county.
Mm-hmm.
They've have investments, and their trajectory is definitely on the up. So we
Mhm.
kind of focus on the toddlers. In the past, we've already done the adults. We did the infants. We did the babies. Now we really want to get the toddlers and see how they move into adolescence.
Yeah.
That's informative, Ashton. So I know you're holding like a really nice book here, speaking about startups. Can you tell the viewers what this is about?
Absolutely. So, similar to Randee with the recruitment from outside companies in, and also the aspects of making sure that there are different ways that they can show to companies coming in, like, we have talent here, we have excitement coming here. The Innovate South Florida book really captures that. So this is our first year. Tech Hub collaborated with the whole region. And really, one of the things that I think is great about the Innovate South Florida book is that we highlight companies that are doing really exciting things, and also to individuals as well. So it's really phenomenal. So I'm going to open it to the Owwll page, because we'll hear even more about Owwll in the future, and are also going to be doing demonstrations there. But you will see Jason, the founder, who's amazing. And so as you go through, it's a really great way to show to people this is a vibrant community. We are also focused on brand to change the perceptions of what the tech community looks like in the tech ecosystem. So as you go through, you can also see all of these different things, and people are loving them. We're actually getting a lot of people asking, how can I get them? And so we reached out to the company, because previously they had to be completely reordered.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have the new ability to buy a new batch. So
Oh,
you'll
nice.
be able to see that on our website, and also too in the newsletter.
So if somebody wants to buy it, they just go to southfloridatachup.org
Yep.
and order it.
Or
Mhm.
they can contact us as well. But a really interesting story with this. So Miami-Dade College is one of the featured people within Innovate South Florida, one of the featured universities and companies and members. And for those that don't know, Miami-Dade College was the first bachelor's in the whole country in AI. And they also now have one as cyber. And so they had a coalition, a team come from Saudi Arabia to bring their companies also to South Florida, to Miami, since they were working with Miami-Dade College. And as a gift to this delegation, they gave them the Innovate South Florida book. So hearing that story, it was like, great, we're already accomplishing things that are there. And they were like, we love what Miami-Dade College is doing. And Pedro from Miami-Dade College was like, no, look at the whole community, look at the whole ecosystem. And the book really makes sure that people know what's going on down here, and how exciting it is to be a part of such a rapidly developing tech community. So yeah, it's really great. And you can see all the information in here, and really get to see in a one-stop shop and in a tangible thing, that you don't have to like try to find different companies and see what they're about.
Anybody who's new in the area can just do a lot of research. It's going to speed up the process by learning more about the top startups, the top technology companies in the area. So,
and even those that are based there too. I mean, you're absolutely right. But the companies that are based here may not realize, like, wow, I'm a part of something bigger. And this is a great way to enhance that and excite and encourage people to keep going. Know that there are people that they can work with. We just had recently our CEO dinner. And so we had 25 really prominent CEOs throughout South Florida to be there. So it's like those connection points. It's those types of things. It's really being able to see all the incredible things that are going on down here.
Exactly. And Randee, what I was going to ask is, you're involved with South Florida Tech Hub. If somebody is a new member, what's the best way to get it on your radar? If somebody's looking for talent, for example, if my agency is looking for talent or on interns, what's the best way to get in touch with you? How does LinkedIn, or I know you're going to have an Owwll profile. Do you have any idea when you're going to be available for like office hours so somebody can contact you?
I will be setting up Owwll office hours. Probably it's going to be after 5 o'clock. Hopefully, folks don't mind that time. And if they're not on Owwll, they should be. But also, they can reach me directly on LinkedIn. But what you described, this conversation happens all the time. Trying to expand or moving in here, trying to find talent. Where do I go and what do I do?
Mhm.
And I think that's why I use the phrase, it's not the common phrase, industry-driven workforce
Mhm.
means that the knowledge and skills that are being taught fit your company's needs. And once we have that conversation, it's actually then making the connections with whether it's our university partners or our technical colleges, or even gets down to our high school dual enrollment programs.
And also Career Source that's here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, our role is to help making the connection. So you feel you have that security that talent is not just available now, but talent is going to be working with you 5 years from now.
That's great. So you'll help find the talent. Do you kind of pre-screen the talent for the companies, or you just do the connection, and then the company's
Just the-
HR
yeah,
does all the
just the
process?
connections. Yeah,
Mhm.
at that point, just the connections, and just trying to make sure that, once the connections are made, the follow-up is there as well. Don't ever want to assume things are always going to, reach the same outcome.
Right, right.
But just to make sure if needs are being met. And if they are, then it's also other parts of the alliance help with, relocating, expansion, trying to find places, whether it's a commercial site and helping with permitting as well.
Mhm.
If you're doing well, you're not going to stay in the same place. You're probably going to need a larger footprint.
And you specifically handle the Fort Lauderdale area.
Yes.
Somebody's looking for Miami or Boca or West Palm. Do you have connections that you can connect them with, like a representative in Boca?
We do. They both have, our neighboring counties have their own economic development office.
Mhm.
And while we love for them to stay in Broward, sometimes it's not a good fit. Larger footprint. And
And you specifically handle the. Okay. I don't know what that was. That's like an echo. The Fort Lauderdale area.
Yes.
Somebody's looking for Miami or Boca or West Palm.
So could you get it twice?
Yeah. I don't like to listen to my voice there. But Ashton, what I was going to ask you, you spoke a little bit about the annual event, what was called Palooza. Now it's going to be called South Florida Pulse,
Mhm.
right? And I saw a recent post that you guys made that you're looking for speakers. So what are the criteria if somebody is in the community that wants to become one of like a featured speakers? How will you select them, or where does one apply to become a speaker?
Absolutely. So it is on our website and
Mhm.
also too in that newsletter. And for those that aren't subscribed to the newsletter, we have over 22,000 members, and our open rate's really large just because of how informative it is. So that will be listed there. And a lot of the people, so I encourage anyone to apply that's in the tech space. We are also highlighting different industries as well. So different verticals. So anything from a track from
Mhm.
tourism to clean tech to all sorts of different ways that people can really understand that it's not just tech isn't just computer programming. It's
Yeah.
not just these types of things. So it's a great way for people to come and learn, expand their knowledge, and see what's going on in a day-to-day basis. And so that one's really good. And I also, because I will forget if we do not talk about it, we have a really cool, exciting event coming up. So the ones that I've talked about are more, like learning focused, talent focused, bringing the community together. And so to enhance that conversation, because one of the things that Tech Hub does, it's not just the learning. A huge part of expanding the talent pipeline is making those connections to other people. So on March 20th of this year, we have a very cool event coming up. I'm really excited about it. It's called Serve and Network.
Mhm.
So we have partnered with the Miami Open.
Nice.
And so we're the only tech partner. To Randy's point, they approached us, which is always a great
That's
thing.
cool.
So we have a really neat opportunity to network. And also, too, they have like a very cool space. There's a VIP area while the matches are going on. So
Mhm.
you can network, but also have the ability to see that. So this is going to be the first year. People can also get the tickets for that online through the show up. It's really easy to navigate. There's an events tab and things like that. So it's going to be very fun. I'm really looking forward to it. And we've been able to work out with the Miami Open. You're going to get, it's actually a cheaper ticket than you would get online, and you can have VIP treatment, and it's going to be a great way to really, build that up as well.
Awesome.
So-
Well, we have another guest here. We have Jason, who's the owner and
What's up,
operator of
everybody?
Owwll. Thanks for joining us.
I couldn't watch the entire time. My good friend Randy being on Tech Tuesday and not step in. So me and Randy go long back. We've been at events together. We've talked a lot about Owwll in the back. So how's everything going, Randy?
Doing well. It's really glad to be here and actually see the process in place.
The magic
Yes,
happens.
the magic. How you like this new podcast table that we just got? Is it you're like the fourth or fifth person to be on this new table?
It's the setup's better than what I expected.
Ooh. Okay, I'll take
This
that.
is a legit professional
Good. That's
studio.
a compliment. It is.
I mean, truly though, like the first time I came in, I was like, "Whoa, this is so neat!" Like I was
Lights,
like,
camera, action.
You know-
exactly.
Is what people see on one side, but the other side of this, you have lights on you. It's really hard to get the lighting correct when you have an 86-inch television putting light the other direction, of course.
Right.
And then all the different things going on with wiring to make all the mics work in tune, but then Owwll phone calls and then the back. I mean, it's a tech nightmare, of course. And you know a thing or two about tech, right?
I would say just amazing to just see, from our early conversations when
Yeah.
we started of what the aspirations and the work and
Thank you.
the hustle that the grind of your focus.
Thank you.
is
I
very
appreciate
impressive.
it.
It's really cool to see that growth, Jason.
I appreciate it, but it's also important to recognize that it comes through the relationships one at a time. Because I think often people want to take a shortcut to success based on what they see on social media, right? And the more you've been around the block, you know that that's just not the case. It's typically those networking meetings. It then turns into coffee meetings, lunch meetings, podcast dinners,
All-nighters.
putting yourself out there, all nighters, going to Podfest Expo together, putting stuff
Yeah.
together behind the scenes. Inevitably, those turn into, those businesses that we hear about today. And often people give up too early because they jump to other businesses because they think the next business is going to be easier, right? And naturally, like all these businesses are very similar at the end of the day, right? They layer on technology and the relationships around them typically, but I think it's become a tough world that we live in when everyone looks at social media and thinking it's that easy, right? And that's what we're doing here with the Owwll app, which is very important, right? It's one relationship at a time. So everybody watching, this is the coolest part of this podcast, at least I believe. Obviously, I have
I do too.
a high focus towards Owwll over here, but this is where like you guys all see Randy's profile is up on the television, and what everyone wants to do is follow him. And what happens after you follow him, you will receive a notification when he makes himself available. Right? He's new to the Owwll app. We're doing this podcast in celebration for Tech Tuesdays, powered by Self-Hire Tech Hub. But how unique is this? Is Randy's a hard individual to get in touch with, and he's going to make himself available the next 7 days to take some phone calls through the Owwll app. So of course you need to follow him, so that way you don't leave it to chance. Do we know when you're going to go available? This is a secret, right? We don't know. It could be his drive home after this episode while he's in the car. Could be,
You said after 5,
future
so
drives.
we
Who
got-
knows? A lot of
we
people
gotta-
use the app while they drive.
You
Gotta-
can use Owwll wherever you go, which I think is great too. You don't have to be on your laptop. I mean, it's right on your phone. It's so easy. That Owwll app is amazing.
Yes.
And help pass the time when the drives to Orlando, the drives to Tampa,
Absolutely.
Nashville.
Yeah.
Productive.
Augustine.
So, Jason, I think we're going to do an interactive session where we
Let's do it.
actually take calls, right?
Okay, so Randy, here's the people that are available on the Owwll app, right? Let's see certain ones in South Florida Tech Hub. Look, we have Teddy. Teddy hasn't taken a call though, so I'm a little scared. He's our guest.
Let's try.
Here-
it. Maybe he's available.
Should we try? I mean, we have a rule here, like don't call new people that don't have had answered calls. But I mean, Teddy was on the podcast, so maybe, yeah. But
He's a technology
But
guy.
very important. We see his pickup rate is 50%. So, we have to have expectations like cold calling days, right? Like cold calling, like the expectation is no one's going to pick up, right? The odds are that you'll make 100 phone calls and 1 to 2 will pick up. And often most of them will hang up on you after a couple seconds of speaking.
It's kind of like, I see an unknown number. My first reaction is, if they don't want to speak to me or they're
Yeah.
trying to sell me something. Now
Mhm.
I get an unknown person. It's like, oh, wait a second. We actually have something like-minded. There's something here. I shouldn't turn it away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, because they can see on your profile, these are your expertise, this is your experience, and they can say like, this is exactly what I want to talk about. So I think that's one of the coolest features of Owwll. They can also seek you out and see the things that they need.
Thanks for vetting the calls for me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
But it's all perspective today, right? When we look 15 years ago when cold calling was the norm for organizations with their sales teams. It's like, people had part of their day for an hour or two making phone calls, either to the stack of business cards that they got at networking events, or, the emails, looking back and creating a list of all these contacts that they've had, or straight up just calling B2B, right? Because B2Bs, would have to pick up phone calls and try to get through the gatekeeper to the decision maker. So somebody reached out to me last week and said, "Hey, Jay, I love the app, but I made 5 calls, only 2 picked up." And I'm sitting there like, it's all perspective, right? Where else can you just spend 30 seconds and someone doesn't get pick up right there, but we say it right there on our profile, like odds are 50%, his ratio says pickup rate 50% there. So it's okay. Like back in cold calling, there was no pickup rate. It was like, no, I just know that 97 out of 100 won't pick up. So it's just like changing the mindset of saying, wow, what a great opportunity that I call 5 people and 2 pick up, right? Even though they set their timer, they might have office hours on, or they go available for 4 hours straight. So sometimes they're jumping into meetings. So it's acceptable to not pick up calls on this platform, but at least be in that like 50% range is kind of more the norm.
But I mean, they're going to get notification that maybe they missed a call and they're going to call you back.
Correct.
So
They
that's a
absolutely
good way
will.
to get on the radar. But, if I'm looking for talent, if I search for a keyword like talent or recruitment, your profile will come up if you optimized it. So that's just another inbound lead for you, somebody searching for talent recruitment.
And
Correct.
also too, just about Owwll in general, that the accessibility I think is great. How often are you going to be able to search through the profile and say, whoa, this is the CEO of someone? You'd never have accessibility to these types of experts too. And you can see the experts on there that are really going to be a great conversation. You can also see the reviews, which I think is great too, because it's like, oh, great. I have 10 minutes. And also for the users as well, it's great for their drives too. It's like you have the ability to make connections and make the most of your time every day. And Owwll allows that so easily.
We actually did a 30-day hard challenge that was a combination of fitness exercises, mindset, where you had to jump on Zoom meetings, where we had featured experts that would train people how to pitch their business or create a call to action for their business. And additionally, one of the requirements was to make an outbound call every day for 30 days straight to different people. And that's hard sometimes because often you call like the same X amount of people through a 30-day window because those are comfortable conversations. Uncomfortable conversations every day, waking up when you do not feel like it, to make that extra call. And you know what happened? Just amazing results. People couldn't believe that there was this many individuals available on Owwll, right? Because then you have to use it as a tool. You have to go in every week, follow different new experts that join, then receive that notification, then call them. Because Owwll's 24/7. Someone like Randee might go available for 1 hour on a Sunday night from 7 to 8. Now, you might not be in the mood to call Randee at 7 to 8. But if that's your chance to gain access to Randee, like that's a nice opportunity. Stop what you're doing and make the phone call. And that's also the difference between sometimes, failure and success. Where sometimes we just don't see it as that one entrepreneur stepped out of their comfort zone at 7 o'clock on a Sunday and made the call. And they might have had people around them, but they said they had to go take a break real quick for 10 minutes. Everyone's got 10 minutes, right? And then who knows, on that time in conversation, like, hey, Randee, why don't we grab lunch on Tuesday or Wednesday? And immediately on a Sunday turn it into an opportunity that same week. So that's really the power of the platform. And we're just seeing tons of that going on. So this individual pickup, see this 100% pickup rate. Now he's $10. But I like this because he's really into tech. So this is going to be a good conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
And not only that, I think what's also, we talk about 10 minutes, which is great, but it's so easy to extend your call. If you're having a great conversation, it's just like, yep, let's continue the conversation and really make things happen.
Absolutely agree. Okay. So if he doesn't pick up, then we have a Bluetooth issue, because what happened is our power went out in this building, and we have some Wi-Fi problems in general. But it looks like he did pick up, and now we're waiting for the call to connect. Here we go. Daniel Hall, can you hear us?
Hey, Jason, how's it going, man? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Well, you know what it is. It's Tech Tuesdays, powered by South Florida Tech Hub in collaboration with the Owwll platform. Are you okay with being recorded, because we are streaming live to social media?
Absolutely. 100%.
Well, Daniel, you're here with Randy. What we're going to do is, Randy, can you give Daniel, because I'm calling him from my profile, and he knows me very well, but Randy, he doesn't know who you are. So, Randy, can you give him a 30-second elevator pitch of who you are, and then we're gonna see if we could form some type of collaboration between you two.
Hi, Daniel. Good morning, and thanks for taking the call. I'm Randee Deich. I work with the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance, the Economic Development Office of Broward County, and my work is really about connecting education and industry, kind of in a reverse order, that we have industry-driven pipelines, making sure that the companies that are in Broward County and all of our targeted industries actually have a talent for today and prepare pipelines for talent for tomorrow.
Ooh, Daniel Hall. I mean, you must be getting goosebumps right now. I have a feeling based on what he just said.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's all about, at least I'm all about, making sure that we can bring up the future generations of folks in software, because I've been in tech for 45 years. So I started writing software when I was 8.
I'm curious. In 45 years, I mean, have you been in the capacity of actually seeing, turnover and the changes of how you've actually connected with, talent, that you currently have, and as the tech changes, a little bit of background of what you've seen, how the changes in technology have maybe driven changes in your talent recruitment process?
Well, I've been on the software development side of it, and I've kept my feet out of management and hiring as much as I could. I've managed to do that for 45 years. But what I have seen, and what the scary part of technology has become, is we're building on top of old tech that is just outdated, and it's scary to see. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in my 45 years. And yeah, I wrote a book about the ugly.
I'm in that book,
So
and I appreciate.
yes, you are in
being
that
part.
book. Owwll's in that book. Yes, as the good, not the ugly.
Right.
So Dan, I think the more I like asking questions to help get a better understanding of your current reality. Because you said you don't want to do management, the management and the hiring piece, and I go on a belief of working with companies that if the work that you're doing has value, the most important thing you can do is prepare your replacement, and has nothing to do with like someone outside of your current work. Have you had any opportunities where you're able to actually influence and mentor and look at, building your replacement, kind of like the models of apprenticeships, where from turning from somebody from a critical friend, or maybe someone that you can mentor, to somebody who might be that loves the work so much because of your attitude and aspirations, says, you know what, I want to do this for my career. And so now you're kind of looking at this as almost like a trade, where your 45 years is a legacy that you kind of share. So the pain point that you described isn't an issue. So is that opportunities that exist for you, or you're working in a system where that's not even an option?
I have one of the best birthday cards hanging up on my wall next to the $1 bill that I have for Owwll.
Mhm.
And that birthday card was from a software developer. This person knew absolutely nothing about software development. He was just a techie. He tore machines apart. And by the time I had him as my replacement, the birthday card that he wrote for me was lines of code. He didn't write it like,
that's so
happy birthday,
fun.
Dan. He wrote a program to print out happy birthday on the card.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me has been one of the most satisfying moments of my career, is knowing that I had a hand in what he did, and pulling him up through the ranks. So from a senior developer standpoint, I think that's where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And he ultimately became my replacement, and he is such a good human.
And that's the stories I'd really like to celebrate, where it's It's the grow your own model.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I'm always scared. I don't know how you feel this whenever I see somebody mentions, or it's really when it comes to higher ed that says to seniors, help us find your future employer. And at that point, I almost want to say it's kind of too late, considering the chances of sometimes when you have to undo behaviors. What you
Mhm.
described is getting somebody on board early. You adopted that mindset of that replacement piece. So it's kind of, I think, the value added that I hope our senior leaders would realize. The starting point that he started is where you left off.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, I don't think that's internalized a little bit, of the thousands of dollars that are being spent in hiring practices just to be lost in this probationary period, where you can pretty much, mitigate the entire risk by just having a different mindset of let's just grow our own talent instead of looking for it.
And I think too, Daniel, I'm curious with your vast experience. I mean, 45 years is super commendable. I know we only have 3.5 minutes left. How do you feel the AI job shift is going to really enhance, you know, evolution, create the evolution with software development?
AI's been around for 7.5 decades. And I mean, once engagement pods started taking over in about 2016, 2017 timeframe, all of a sudden AI just went in this big boom. So it got pushed out and put into the marketplace. But I think the coolest thing that I love AI, and probably one of the few that knows that, we grew up with AI. But one of the things that I loved growing up was music. And I'm dyslexic, and I had always had a problem with matching up notes and lyrics and stuff. So I started using Suno. And I'm like, no, I don't want to create bangers just like everybody else. But the coolest thing about it is it could learn the sounds of different instruments. So I started just using it to create different sounds of like Hans Zimmer, and ultimately ended up creating trailer music from
Right.
like Suno, just doing crazy stuff and seeing how it's cool to see how far you can push the boundaries and take a balanced approach to artificial intelligence instead of it ruling, your daily routine of automated ignorance, where you're just doing set it and forget it and you're not really learning anything. AI is so cool if you can take it and run with it and learn with it, help it reverse engineer what it's showing you, so you can have a better mindset, not only for your life, but for your career. So you love what you're doing instead of feeling like you're doing mundane stuff all the time.
Automated
That's kind of my
ignorance.
take on
I
it.
really like that one, Randy. What are your thoughts about automated ignorance?
I'm glad you asked that question, because you hear a lot about the dumbing of our population because of AI. And Daniel, you actually brought up a good point that it's used properly, that responsibility thing. It actually
Yeah.
fosters creativity, and critical thinking.
Yeah.
It's like any tool. You can use it like if you want to use it as a hammer, you can use it as a hammer. But if you want to use it as a scalpel, you can
Yeah.
use it as a scalpel.
Right. It's a tool
Mhm.
to use.
That's why I think prompt engineering is important, because it's how you ask the
Yep.
questions to get the right information. Yeah.
100%.
Well, Daniel, we want to say thank you for joining us on Tech Tuesdays today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and everybody here is going to reach out to you after this, because I think there's more that you all have to speak about. Randee, Daniel has just published a book about automated ignorance, which we were just talking about, and how these pods take over LinkedIn, and everyone's sharing a bunch of fluffy stuff and liking and commenting, and it's getting out of control. And I think this is going to impact the next generations, which is what we're speaking about today. So, Daniel, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Nice meeting you, Daniel.
Okay. Daniel is getting a 5-star, I think.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Where's Daniel located? Is he in here?
He's up East Coast in the Maryland area. And
How
then
neat is that? you wouldn't be able to interact with him down here if it wasn't for Owwll. I think
Yeah.
that's something really cool too.
And it just, I'll put his profile up. It also shows what you were speaking about earlier about like the next generation, how important it is to have tools like Owwll where you could have natural conversations and it's the other person on the other line, right? People can't fake. Yes, you can fake voice on a video, right? Which is happening more and more today, but like a natural conversation like we just had typically is not going to be faked. And you can run all the automated scripts on Instagram and LinkedIn and try to automate posts and comments and likes today. And the next generation is cheating on their homework, right? I see it with our other show, the Shrimp Tank with FAU, and I see all these students all the time. And apps like Owwll will better their future because they get careers through it by having natural conversations. So,
And on natural conversations, I think, when you talk about mentorship, it's hard to find a mentor. It's
Very
hard
hard.
to really be able to do that. So having that natural conversation, being able to see, oh my gosh, he has 45 years of experience and you
Yeah.
can connect, then naturally Daniel's going to want to help that rising top talent. So, and again, you wouldn't get that, but for Owwll.
Okay, we're going to try one more call. I see someone that comes down to Florida and she does events all the time. So I want to actually connect you two because everything that you were just speaking about and
Perfect.
Greater Fort Lauderdale area, they're always running events. Tech Hub's always running events. So it will be a nice introduction to both parties. Hello, is this Samara Beth?
Well, if I knew you were going to call me, I would have upped my price to $99.
This is a steal it was a steal at $1. So Samara, you know what day of the week it is. It's Tuesday. So it's Tech Tuesdays powered by South Florida Tech Hub in collaboration with the Owwll platform. Are you okay being recorded as we stream live?
I am. I just walked in from a BNI meeting. You caught me just in time.
Well, that is perfect because we got a studio of 4 people with us right now. We got, people from Tech Hub, of course, and we got Randee, who does a lot with the city of Fort Lauderdale. And I saw you just went available. I know you do a lot of events all across the United States, but you're doing more in South Florida as you come to visit. She lives in Arizona. So, Randee, what I want to do is quickly tell Samara in 30 seconds elevator pitch, and Samara, then I want you to elevator pitch, and we're going to see if we could have you two bond, maybe have a collaboration next time you come visit Florida. Why don't you guys connect for a cup of coffee? Okay.
Sounds great. Cup of coffee, martini, it's all good.
Perfect.
There we go.
All right. Good morning, Samara. This is Randee, and I work with the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance for Broward County's Economic Development Office. It's a public-private partnership, and really it's about bringing our businesses, our headquarters to the county. And along with that comes with bringing talent. And my role is really helping create and support talent pipelines. So everybody who wants to move here and everyone who's here and wants to grow their companies, they have that security, that talent's available for them for today, for tomorrow, and even being available for them for the jobs that don't exist in their own company.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So yeah, I do frequent Florida, and for the last 30 years, I've been producing corporate, social, nonprofit events, destination management, and retreats. And I coach people in marketing and sales of their businesses, as well as how to produce their own events and retreats or train their team with the sales and marketing. So with new businesses, it's really important. And because I've lived in 13 states and 30 homes, I know how to be a reinvention maverick and people grow and start over or move their businesses. So that's excellent.
So that's pretty neat that you see success in all these, the places, because every, sounds like areas have different cultures and different tones. I'm curious, you used the word sales, and someone share with me, I want to know what your position on this. Is it sales or is it solutions that you provide?
So it's solutions and having outcomes actually is the main focus, but most people definitely understand sales as a term more than the solutions and outcomes, but thank you for that. That's a good correction.
Well, it's for when I started hearing that term and realizing applying it, you brought in the most important part, outcomes. And, and that's the piece that's always missing. This difference between being busy and being productive. And
absolutely. We have the same 24
so
hours in the day, right?
Oh my gosh. So in destination management, what have you seen about areas of, of folks developing talent and really creating talent pipelines where a company feels secure about, their future?
Wow, this is like a very serious Al call. I think
Very.
we're going to go into a
I have-
PowerPoint presentation here.
No, no pitch. I just want to know that you're, what comes to mind with the people that you've actually talked to.
Which is why you guys are going to grab coffee. I knew where this was going. I was like, this is not going to be a 10-minute call. It's going to be a 10-minute intro to a 1 hour, coffee sometime.
Jason, I believe I think everybody deals with talent pipelines. Just don't know it or not.
Of course.
Just trying to find that lens that exists.
In the financial services industry, hardest pipeline in the world because no one's joining the industry in their 20s. Then, now that I'm operating Owwll, right, it's a startup, and it's very difficult to find talent, of course, because everyone, wants big salaries, 401k healthcare, and you're like, this is a startup. It comes with the risk and reward side of things. So every brand, runs the gamut when it comes to this.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely. And I also feel that understanding the different generations is really important. So I have a 15-year-old daughter, a 21-year-old son who's at university. And because I've produced events from social to corporate and retreats, I've worked with all the different generations. And Jason and Ellie can tell you that even though I just turned 49 on Sunday, I kind of look like I'm 20 sometimes. So I feel like those younger generations relate to me and they really love the energy. And so you have to kind of work with people based on what their heart or their wallet tug is. What is it that drives them versus what is it that drives you? Because it really is about them, and making sure that they're incentivized and feel like they have the knowledge that they need to succeed, but also that they that they have the passion, that they want to stay within that job. So I also help, companies with learning how to incentivize them, learning how to train them, learning, the way that people learn. I have a son with autism, and I have a learning disability. So everybody learns differently as well.
It's absolutely true, and I think what we talked about, what was our conversation earlier. The term that was used was finding talent, and we started talking, instead of maybe flipping the conversation, instead of finding talent, of actually growing your own talent. Looking at you have a great experience. You actually, your profession deals with this variety of industries, and you're also a parent who has a 15-year-old and a 21-year-old, one who is looking ahead at entering the workforce and one who's pretty much knocking on the door. So what have you, how have you seen your role as a parent and seeing the needs of two young adults who are entering the workforce and the changes you just described, and everybody learns things differently? How has that impacted or changed how you may have approached your work now than what you did 10 years ago?
So it's a great question, and that has evolved as I've moved so many times. I've moved my business and my kids many times because of my husband's career in the military, as well as oil, gas, and construction. So I've had to evolve with that throughout. And my kids, like my 21-year-old, first of all, they're totally different. My 21-year-old, who is an astronomy major, and he'll be an astrophysicist and doesn't really care to work. and he's a Lego video game maniac. And then I've got my 15-year-old who can't wait to be of age to get a job. She's like dying to get a job. And she was CEO of her own how-to baking business at 9 years old.
Oh my goodness.
So very different children, very different drive. So it's unique. And also I've had to create a village for them and teach them how to do that, how to network, how to talk to adults, and be part of different environments. So yeah, that's a 5-hour conversation.
It sounds like your 21-year-old is it going to be, is he registered on Owwll yet? On connecting with other astrophysicists?
So my son, during the pandemic, we had just moved from Canada to Arizona. And when the pandemic happened, they had just been in school, a brand new state, for 3 months before we went into lockdown. And my son, we were all panicking. We're extroverted, we're business people, whatever. And my daughter was so sad because she missed, she had just started making friends. And so did my son. But my son said the funniest thing, because it's so true, is, oh my gosh, we're in lockdown, we're in quarantine. I've been training for this my entire life. This is fantastic. So
yes,
we're very different. He's a lot more like his dad than his mother.
But this is, we had a moment about connecting employees with the right company fit. And that's a great example about your son. He will thrive in a business where he's allowed to be, work in that environment where he may not be as engaged, interact with a larger group or constant interaction. If he likes that remote piece, he needs to find a company that will meet his needs, not just his skill set. Just like your daughter, it's more than just a skill set. It's what's best for her to thrive in a job.
Absolutely. And so if you have any contacts at NASA, let me know.
Hey, with Florida, we do.
Yeah, South Florida.
NASA, SpaceX, Blue Horizons. Our space industry is going rapidly. So maybe we can lure you to live in Florida and add another space.
Ooh,
Add
Samara
another-
visits all the time. Samara, when are you visiting next?
Well, I'm moving there ultimately. We've actually been talking about, because Ava only has 3 more years of high school. So I'm trying to figure out what part of Florida we want to live in. Because I used to live in Amelia Island, and we love, love, love South Florida. So I don't know when I'll be back, but I will be back. You know that.
Okay, so
my daughter wants to go to Florida as our trip this summer.
Okay, we got 20 seconds left. So this is what we're going to do. After this call, just go watch the episode. You're on the last 15 minutes and send Randee and Ashton a message on LinkedIn and set up a meeting to have coffee the next time you visit Florida, because you all have to connect, because we can make this all happen. And it all started with a quick little intro call on Owwll. Later.
I love it.
Nice
Thank
meeting
you.
you.
See you.
And that is the power of the platform. Show me anywhere at 11 to 12 a.m., p.m., I guess we're hitting now, in the afternoon, called Daniel Hall, Samara, call 4 people, 2 out of 4 picked up and built relationships on the fly, and literally turn those relationships into coffee meetings, lunch meetings, and then who knows where we'll go after that. Randee, have you ever seen a technology that could do this?
No, and I'm actually no, I haven't. And one of the really cool added value as I'm processing this whole experience, you have a group of young talent in college who are not comfortable networking face to
Nope,
face.
they are not.
And they can't avoid it. It's as much as they want to. Well, if they aspire to walk up the career ladder, this is a great scaffold of starting. It might be, and even not comfortable talking on the phone, at least it's a little bit less intimidating than someone in your face. And if you do have this synergy and this connection, then how much easier it is to meet Daniel and Samara, to meet coffee. We've already broken the bread. We already know what we've talked about. We already know what our shared interests are. This is my professional community. You don't have this available.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot then after this episode. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but right now,
Join the club.
FAU, we have a professor. His name is Patch, and we have actual Owwll in a classroom of business students, about 100 to 150 of them, how to download Owwll, and it's part of their curriculum. Part of their grade is required that every month they must make a call on Owwll to an expert and then fill out a survey. And he's really pinpointing the survey back to networking and how important those calls really are, and how that's going to be super important in their careers down the road, right? How do you get a job, right? You got to speak to someone. You got to put yourself out there, right? You're not going to always just be able to put up a post on Indeed or Handshake they use and opportunities just roll on in. Eventually you're going to have to look at apps like Owwll or LinkedIn and go on offense. Right.
And we hear that from our members all the time, is that this rising generation does not have soft skills, does not know how to do regular things. And as you were mentioning that, I had so many things come to mind, because we work with all of the colleges and universities throughout South Florida. So we should talk after this, because I think we can do some really cool things in that aspect that I wasn't thinking about.
Yeah. So here's where I was going with this, Randee, put you on the spot, right? Owwll can't afford, right, to literally go to school and hand out $25 to $50 per student to put money in their accounts, because it's real money, right? If they call Daniel Hall for $10, where are they going to get the money to do that, right? Daniel's a nice guy, right? Inevitably, we could build a feature to donate the money to a cause, but there needs to be some type of money element, because experts are really nice, but not to take 100 calls in a month. One individual, Ira, I think took 20, 30 calls because all the students jammed in the calls when their assignment was due at the end of the month. He happened to be available. He's like, Jason, what's going on? I got like 20 plus calls from FAU students. I love it. And he's enjoying it, but not everyone loves that. Like, they only have so much time to give back. So where I was going with this is like, we need to find a nonprofit that could go out and get a big grant, right? And that nonprofit could run this entire program with us in collaboration because we're a for-profit business. We can't go out and get these grants. So if we start at the ground up, which is in the college classroom setting, where we're putting it in their curriculum, just think about the impact of them just calling people, but it's a safe environment. They could block the user. They could report the user. They're not using any of their private information. They're not even give out their cell phone, email. It's all in-app phone calls, and it creates an amazing tool for them because it has the right boundaries. So everything that you were talking about today just resonated.
And I wonder too, from a funding perspective, our local career source, organizations absolutely have funds. I think this is a perfect way. We talk about it with them, the soft skills, all the time. So
Absolutely.
maybe they have, parts in their budget that they can put towards this.
And
Yeah.
I think the solution that you just described, that there is a workforce need and there's workforce grants that are there. And if all the grants, if all they do is provide the technical skills of what the students need to know in order to do the job, and not looking at it as a program, that's not just the knowledge and skills, the attitude, the aspirations, and the behaviors. If there's not a component on how to network, how to talk, how to communicate, how to brainstorm and problem solve on the fly in a team or another individual,
Sure.
then your workforce grant, those outcomes will never hit the target.
Yeah.
So it's now looking at as using Owwll as part of a platform, this platform that's involved in our workforce education.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to just pinpoint some of the data aspects. So if I go over to right here on the Owwll app, who's active, right? And I'm going to take someone I know did the challenge for 30 days, right? When you put this in this hands of students, and we go over to someone like Eric Allen, right? And we say, okay, you're required to make a call a day, or Monday through Friday, call every time you're in class, right? They can do it in class, like take a break, everyone make a call through the app, right? It's instant, right? But look at all these calls, 3 days, 4 days, 8 days, right? He had to call a different individual for 30 days straight. And what we found was the outcome was amazing. Like, he couldn't believe that, by forcing calling different individuals, like, now he's got on multiple podcasts, he's visiting people, he lives in Oregon, right? So he flies a lot of places, and he's actually flying to these other locations and now meeting up with these people he spoke to on the app. That was done in 30 days.
Right.
So just think about what would be the outcomes if you take classrooms and you force it, right? Because they're never going to do it. It's not in their comfort zone. And we know that. We've done studies where we said it's optional to use, or, give it to the career fit group at FAU. Like, here's a sign, download Owwll and find a career. Never going to be used, right? But when you kind of just give that extra little nudge, that nudge makes all the difference.
Right.
We started off, and I mentioned, I had no buy-in to school because of relevancy. I can't imagine if I was a high schooler.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in here, it's like, why am I learning this? And all of a sudden, I get someone from, a marine industry is saying, Randee, you love the water. You've been in Fort Lauderdale since you were, 2, your own boats. Did you know that if you did this, you need geometry and physics? That profession, that connection, that 10-minute phone call can make the change from skipping school to staying in school.
For sure. Okay, it's our saddest time of the day where we have to come to the closing of this show, of course.
But the good news is we'll be back next Tuesday.
That is true. That is true.
Good.
So, Randee, wow, what a special guest and expert. That was really insightful episode. Jason, thanks for making all the calls and giving us update into the Owwll.
Absolutely. It's always my pleasure.
Ashton, always a pleasure. Any final thoughts that you want to mention about Tech Hub events or anything going on?
Yeah, so our golf tournament's this Friday. So it's at the Plantation Golf and Country Club. So it's a great midway point for everyone in the region to come and when you think about golf tournaments, it's just like, but you don't realize the networking that goes on there too. There's a lot of programming aspects there. So check that out. And then also that Serve and Network event, I think is going to be really fun.
Serve and Network, Open Miami. So Randee, did you want to say something else?
if you're going to go to the South Florida Tech Hub golf tournament, you might be able to find a copy of the State of Tech Report, the hard copy available. So I'll make sure those are brought over.
And the TechGateway map.
Absolutely.
We always
Awesome.
love it.
Awesome.
What about you? Yeah, I want to hear from you. What's going on in your world? You're always doing
Not
all these
much,
amazing
man. I'm always
videos.
behind the
We're not
stuff.
ever talking about. You're the guy behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Makes
No,
these beautiful
we
videos,
actually,
sometimes for Tech
well,
Hub, Owwll.
I wanted
on.
to do a shout out. March is International Women's Month, so actually, my co-host Cindy, who's not here today, but we're hosting an event. It's called $1 Million Message.
I'm gonna put it up. I'm gonna put it up because
Yeah.
I posted
$1
it.
Million Message is going to be March 14th. There we have some powerhouse speakers like Forbes Riley, Amanda Milano. So you can go to $1 Million
There it is.
Message.
There it is. We got it.
Yeah, there
It's
you
right
go.
up there.
So look at this lineup, and I get to be in the same room with all these superstar ladies and co-hosting it with Cindy. So anybody's interested in networking, building new relationships, growing a network, it's going to be March 14th at the Boca Raton Innovation Campus. So that's what I've been up to.
And look, we're a sponsor over there with a little Owwll logo at
yeah,
the bottom. Woohoo!
We're going to have an Owwll booth interactive, so people will
Absolutely.
be able to jump on and do some content. Everybody's invited. If you're looking for a promo code, just reach out to me or Cindy, and we'll definitely provide you with an Owwll sponsored promo code.
Absolutely.
Again, thanks for being on South Florida Tech Hub, powered by Owwll. See you next week.
Take care, everybody. See you later.